After 3 years of punishment, Vincent came to pick me up with his first love by his side. He said, "I heard that you've learned your lesson. I'll give you a chance to repent. Your sister Lily is gentle and generous. Learn from her more and don't cause any more trouble in the future." Everyone thought that I would cry out my grievances and cling to him as my last straw. But I just calmly lowered my head and bowed deeply to express my gratitude. Vincent frowned. "Iris, I'm your fiancé. You don't need to be so distant with me." I smiled. "Soon, I won't be anymore." After 3 years of hardships, I finally accumulated enough points. In another 10 days, I can break away from this world forever. From then on, Iris will disappear and have nothing to do with you. I had just come back from the mountain and hadn't had time to change into clean clothes when I was urged to rush to the open space at the village entrance. There were more than a dozen luxury cars parked on the open space. The black SUV at the front was Vincent's. Before I even got close, I could hear the noisy chatter. I stood behind a tree and slowly stopped in my tracks. It's been 3 years since we last saw her. I wonder what our pampered young lady looks like now. She's not a young lady at all. If the Vincent family hadn't adopted her, she'd have been sleeping on the overpass long ago. Iris is a bit spoiled and naughty. It's for her own good to let her endure some hardships to temper her temperament. I immediately recognized the soft female voice at the end as Lily's. She was the white moonlight that Vincent had been longing for but couldn't have when he was young. Since she returned to the country after getting divorced and having a child, she had been staying in the Vincent family most of the time. During an argument 3 years ago, I accidentally injured Lily and was forcibly sent to the mountains by Vincent. When I left, he said, "If you can't be reformed in 3 years, then I'll keep you here for another 6 years, or even 10 years. Iris, you were so cruel at such a young age. I'm punishing you for your own good. If you don't change your temperament, how can you be the daughter-in-law of the Vincent family in the future?" For my own good. So he left me alone in this small village to be bullied by others. So he didn't leave me a single penny and let me fend for myself. So he cut off all my connections with the outside world and turned me into a mute and a deaf person. I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't. The wind in the mountains was very cold. My dry and yellowish hair was blown into a mess, sticking to my cheeks and forehead like withered grass. And that originally plump and delicate face of mine. Now it looked like a shriveled green date that had lost water. At the age of 22, there were already fine lines on my face. Lily is right. About what happened last time, it was Lily who was magnanimous and didn't call the police. Otherwise, she'd have been in jail long ago. Lily just smiled gently. I also didn't want to put Vincent in a difficult position. Iris is his fiancée after all. She said this and glanced at Vincent, with a hint of moisture in her eyes. What do you think Iris's reaction will be when she sees Vincent? Needless to say, she'll definitely cry her eyes out first. And then she'll cling to him like a leech and never let go. On the way here just now, ugh, this place is really poor. It's all muddy roads. With Iris's delicate temperament, she must have suffered a lot this time. Vincent gave a cold laugh. I came to pick her up myself this time to see if she has truly repented. What if she hasn't? Vincent's voice was indifferent. Then I'll let her stay here for another 3 years. Then what about your marriage? Lily bit her lip and looked at him nervously. The marriage will naturally have to be postponed. Lily lowered her eyes in disappointment. At this moment, suddenly someone with sharp eyes saw me. Is that Iris? No way. Is that village girl Iris? How could it be? I know what Iris looks like. Everyone looked at each other in astonishment. Vincent, it seems to be Iris. Lily naturally took Vincent's arm and pointed at me. Look, the necklace on her neck. Vincent's gaze finally slowly landed on my face and then fixed on that necklace. When I was forcibly taken away from the Vincent family by his people, I didn't bring any jewelry with me. Only this unassuming silver necklace, which was my mother's keepsake. Iris. When Vincent called my name, his voice was very cold, completely different from the gentle tone when he was talking to Lily. If it were in the past, I would surely have been extremely aggrieved. I would have started to be jealous and quarreled with him. But now, my heart was like a withered leaf swirling in the autumn wind. I had long been beyond sorrow and joy, Mr. Vincent. I brushed aside the messy hair by my temples and tucked it behind my ears. Vincent furrowed his brow slightly. I heard that you've learned your lesson. I'll give you a chance to repent. Your sister Lily has a gentle temperament and is kind and gentle to others. When we return to Beijing, you should learn more from her. Don't cause trouble all day long and make the family worry about you. I didn't respond, just nodded slightly. Vincent's brows furrowed even tighter. In the past, I was lively and talkative, which annoyed him. He would frown whenever he saw me. Now that I'm as silent as he wished, he's still annoyed. But I no longer care about his emotions. I just stood there with my head lowered. Like a severed piece of dead wood, without any emotion. Iris, what happened to your foot? Suddenly, a girl in the crowd spoke up. She looked at me in astonishment, with a hint of sympathy in her eyes. I took a look. Oh, it was in the first winter. It was so cold that I tried to chop firewood. I was hit by a piece of wood and after my toenail fell off, it never grew back. I curled up my foot, but I was wearing a pair of sandals that had been broken several times. There was no way to hide it. So, I just didn't bother anymore. Why didn't you tell me when you were injured? Why didn't you use the money I gave you to buy medicine? Vincent's voice grew colder. I didn't quite understand why he was so angry. I could only lower my head even further. I hoped he would calm down and take me back to Beijing. There was one thing I had to do. Forget it. It's getting late. Come back with me first. As soon as Vincent finished speaking, I bowed deeply to him. Mr. Vincent, thank you. My voice was a bit soft, but every word was clear. Suddenly, the air became very quiet. Only the sound of the wind, sometimes near and sometimes far, occasionally let out a shrill howl. Perhaps people in the circle were curious about what I had become after 3 years. Perhaps, more people wanted to see me make a fool of myself. Surprisingly, there were a dozen or 20 people who came here in a big group. But now, they were all quiet and didn't say a word. Even Lily slightly widened her eyes. Vincent was first stunned for a moment. Then, he seemed to suddenly get angry. Iris. I'm your fiancé. You don't need to be so distant from me and pretend to be humble. I know you resent me for sending you here for 3 years. But it was you who attacked first. Lily almost lost an eye back then. I took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the emotions churning in my heart. I clenched my palms tightly. My fingers, which had been working hard all day without manicures, had become thick and hard. They almost pierced my palms. But in the end, I still didn't say anything. In another 10 days, I will leave this world forever. Everything about them will have nothing to do with me anymore. Thinking of this, I felt only a sense of relief in my heart, Miss Lily. I'm sorry about what happened back then. I bowed again, this time to Lily. I bent even lower than before. Vincent's face turned livid and he clenched his back teeth tightly. For half a minute, he suddenly took a step forward and grabbed my wrist. Iris, no matter what you're planning in your heart, I warn you, don't hurt Lily and her child again. If you do it one more time, I'll be even harsher. He dragged me to the car and pushed me into it. I can take you back to Beijing, and I can also send you back here. I looked up and calmly looked at him. It seemed that this was the first time today that I had looked at him so seriously. In this different world, I became an orphan at the age of 3. The Vincent family adopted me. I regarded them as my relatives and adored them deeply. When I fell in love with Vincent at the first sight of love, we later got engaged. Later, I watched him bring back Lily and her child and live under the same roof with us. I watched him favor them and protect them. He regarded me as a scourge. I had cried, made a fuss, been broken down, and had overreacted. I even thought about dying. But I had never thought about hurting Lily and her child. However, except for my adoptive mother, no one believed me. It's a pity that when I was sent away, my adoptive mother was already very ill. She was sometimes conscious and sometimes unconscious. She couldn't protect me anymore. Mr. Vincent. Don't worry. I'll change everything. Perhaps my docility pleased him. Perhaps, seeing my miserable state now, he still felt a little pity. The cold anger in Vincent's eyes seemed to fade a bit. He even reached out and brushed aside a strand of hair by my ear. Iris. If you had been like this earlier, you wouldn't have suffered for 3 years. When we go back, get along well with Lily. Like me, regard her as your sister. I looked at him and just smiled faintly. Sister. How ridiculous. Okay. Vincent touched my head. Go back and clean yourself up properly first. Don't let Mom see you like this. Okay. I lowered my eyelashes, looking quiet and docile. However, Vincent seemed to frown as he glanced at his fingers. He had just touched my face. My face had been roughened by the wind and would even chap in winter. He knew best how much I used to care about my appearance. My bedroom had been taken over by Lily. My piano room had become the study for Lily's son. The whole second floor, which used to be just for me and Vincent, now belonged to the 3 of them. It looked so much like a family of 3. Lily pulled up my sleeve, looking apologetic. Iris, I'll ask the servants to vacate the room for you right away. Don't be angry. I'll stay in the guest room. I pulled my arm away, wanting to go take a bath and change into clean clothes first to see my adoptive mother. But Lily grabbed me again. Iris, are you angry? Don't worry. I won't fight with you over it. I'll ask Leo to clear out his things right away. Why should I be the one to move out? Uncle Vincent said that this is my home and I can live wherever I want. Lily's son Leo ran downstairs, crying and shouting. Lily hurried forward to comfort him. But suddenly, Leo picked up a teacup and threw it at my face. Lily tried to stop him but failed. The cup didn't hit my face but landed heavily on my knee. Lily glanced at me, bit her lip, and actually raised her hand and slapped Leo. Why are you so naughty? Uncle Vincent was just being polite, and you took it seriously? This isn't your home. It's your Aunt Iris's home. You don't have a home. Do you understand? Lily burst into tears as she spoke. When Vincent came in, what he saw was the scene of the mother and son crying in each other's arms. Uncle Vincent, are you going to drive me and Mom out? Who said that? Uncle Vincent will never drive you away. Vincent bent down and picked him up to comfort him. Then why did you ask us to move rooms as soon as she came back? Uncle Vincent, I don't want to live in the servants' room. Vincent's face gradually darkened. Iris, why are you still so stubborn? You've just walked in the door and already made the whole house in an uproar. They're a poor mother and son. Can't you show some compassion? Vincent. Don't say that. This was originally Iris's and your home. My son Leo and I are just living under someone else's roof. We should know our place. Lily lowered her head, crying. Her already slender and delicate figure looked even more pitiful, like a willow in the wind. Vincent's face turned livid. There's no need to change rooms. You can just continue living there. There are so many empty rooms in the house. Can't you find a place to stay? Vincent looked at me unhappily. If you have any complaints, come to me. If you want to cry, make a fuss, or lay hands on them. Iris, you know that I won't let you off easily. I looked at Lily. Lily sobbed a few times and then averted her gaze. I then looked at Leo. There was a look of smugness in Leo's teary eyes. Finally, I looked at Vincent. He seemed to be waiting for me to be jealous and fly into a rage like before. But I was as calm as a deep pool. I even smiled faintly. Okay, no need to change. I can stay anywhere. Even the servants' room is fine. After saying this calmly, I picked up the tattered cloth bag on the ground and walked upstairs. Anyway, there were only 10 days left. I just needed to get through it. Even the servants' room was better than the drafty tile-roofed house in the village. I wasn't picky. After taking a bath and changing clothes, I went downstairs. I was going to the hospital to see Vincent's mother as soon as possible. To get to the garage, I had to pass through the garden. At this time, the sun was setting. Vincent was playing ball with Lily and her son. Originally, he was just standing on the side watching. But as soon as I came out, Vincent suddenly walked behind Lily and held her wrist. Your grip on the racket is wrong. From my angle, it looked like he was hugging Lily from behind. She leaned back slightly, pressing closer to him. Vincent, am I a bit stupid? It doesn't matter. I'll teach you. Leo suddenly clapped his hands and shouted, Uncle Vincent and Mom look like a couple. Leo, don't talk nonsense. Lily quickly scolded gently. I walked straight through the garden without looking sideways. I strode towards the car parked not far away. When I reached the car, I suddenly remembered something. I turned around and took a look back at the garden. In the flower bed, the hibiscus flowers that Vincent's mother liked hadn't withered yet. I turned around and walked over, wanting to pick one to show her in the hospital. But I had only taken 2 steps. Suddenly, Lily grabbed Leo and hid behind Vincent in fright. Vincent immediately shielded the mother and son. Iris, what do you want to do now? I warn you. I didn't even look at the 3 of them. I just quickly walked to the flower bed, picked the 2 best-looking flowers, and then turned around and left. So I didn't see that. Lily bit her lip, looking at my back with a thoughtful expression. And Vincent, he furrowed his brows tightly, staring fixedly in the direction I had left. He didn't move for a long time. Even when Lily called him several times, it was as if he hadn't heard her at all. He didn't respond at all. 3 years had passed, and Vincent's mother's health had become even weaker. I waited in the hospital for a long time before she regained consciousness briefly. The nanny and caregiver taking care of her said that she hardly recognized people anymore. But when I stood by her bedside holding the hibiscus flowers, she recognized me at once. Iris is here. My tears welled up instantly. I'm sorry, Mom. It's been so long since I last visited you. Vincent's mother touched my face, her eyes full of heartache. You've lost weight. You've lost weight. That's good. You don't have to worry about losing weight every day anymore. You should gain a little more weight, Vincent's mother said weakly. She looked at me, then at the flowers, and then closed her eyes again. She was sometimes conscious and sometimes unconscious. She was terminally ill. I placed the hibiscus flowers on her bedside. I whispered in her ear, Mom, you'll get better. When you recover, get a divorce and leave the Vincent family. Go and live the free life you've always wanted. Vincent's mother's health had deteriorated due to years of pent-up anger. And the reason for this was her husband's constant affairs and having another family outside. At the most outrageous time, he even brought the woman and children he kept outside back to the Vincent family's old house. Vincent's mother was so angry that she fell seriously ill. Only when he couldn't withstand the outside criticism did he send them away. Before leaving this world, my last unfulfilled wish was for her. The reason why I swallowed all the hardships during those 3 years. Why I endured the torment without giving up on myself or trying to escape back to Beijing was firstly to accumulate enough points to return to the original world and to the relatives who were eagerly waiting for me to go home. Secondly, it was to earn more points to exchange for a healthy body for my adoptive mother. And now, I had achieved both. In the remaining 9 days, I spent 2/3 of my time in the hospital. Vincent's mother's health began to improve slowly. She was conscious for longer periods each day. I rarely went back to the Vincent family. Occasionally, when I went back to get something, I would always see the scene of Vincent playing with Lily and her son. 3 years ago, such scenes used to pierce my heart with great pain. I was jealous, aggrieved, resentful, but also helpless. I was immersed in those bad negative emotions all day long and couldn't extricate myself. But now, I was completely indifferent. After taking a bath and changing into clean clothes, I also asked the kitchen to prepare some nutritious soup. When I was about to go back to the hospital with the things, Vincent stopped me. There's something I need to talk to you about. I glanced at him, my voice calm. Go ahead. However, Vincent didn't speak immediately. His gaze was fixed on my face. It was the 6th day since I had come back. Because I had accompanied Vincent's mother for every meal. So in just a few days, I had gained 2 or 3 pounds. Although I was still quite thin overall, I no longer looked as haggard as before. My skin had regained some luster and my complexion had started to improve. I had cut my hair a bit shorter, trimming off the withered yellow ends. It made me look a bit more childish. After all, I was only 22 years old. After taking care of myself for a few days, my condition had improved. Mom said that you've been working hard taking care of her in the hospital and has been praising you. There seemed to be a hint of relief in Vincent's eyes. In these 3 years, you've really grown up, become more sensible, and more obedient. Just that. He paused slightly, the wedding date will have to be postponed. After saying that, he looked at me, don't overthink it. This has nothing to do with Lily. Okay. I interrupted him, you can arrange it as you like. Iris? Vincent seemed a bit surprised. But I had already picked up the things and was walking out. This separation would be forever. I just wanted to spend more time with Vincent's mother. Are you angry? Vincent stopped me again, grabbing my wrist. No, I said that you can arrange it however you like. I didn't want to cause any more trouble or waste time on him. So I deliberately said in a docile manner, brother, I'll listen to you. Perhaps this long unheard brother slightly touched Vincent's heart. He looked at me and suddenly his eyes and brows became gentle. Iris. He raised his hand, wanting to ruffle my hair on top of my head like before. But suddenly, Lily's voice came softly from the doorway of the second-floor bedroom. Vincent, I sprained my ankle. Can you come and take a look? He subconsciously turned around. Taking the opportunity, I quickly walked out of the living room. Behind me came Lily's usual low and timid voice. Is Iris angry with me again? I was in so much pain just now that I couldn't help calling for you. No, she's not angry. Sit down first. I'll ask the doctor to have a look at you. I shook my head, shutting out those voices of conversation, and strode in the autumn breeze. In 4 more days, I would be going home. Vincent began to frequent the hospital. Vincent's mother had already known about my decision. Therefore, whenever he came, she would urge me to go back and rest. No longer like before, when she was happy to see the two of us alone together. On the night before I left, I had originally planned to stay with Vincent's mother in the hospital all the time. But Vincent came again. Taking the opportunity when he went to the doctor's office, Vincent's mother pulled me aside to talk to me alone. She sat on the hospital bed, touching my face for a long while. Iris, take good care of yourself. Mom will also be fine here. When she shed tears, I cried too. Finally, just like when she used to coax me when I was little, she kissed my face. Go, Iris. Never come back again. Walking out of the ward, I didn't dare to look back at her. When I came to the Vincent family at the age of 3, I was just a naive little child. Vincent's mother brought me up like her own daughter. Her kindness in raising me had long surpassed that of giving birth. The only remaining attachment I had to this different world was her, and only her. I went back to the Vincent family. I started to sort out my things one by one. There was only a limited amount that I could take away. In the end, I only took away all the photos of me and Vincent's mother. Also, the bracelet she gave me on my 18th birthday. All the photos of me and Vincent, I tore them up and burned them. The things he had given me over the years were left untouched on the table in the room. I didn't take any of them with me. When day broke, Vincent came back from the hospital. And then the drama began. As soon as his car stopped, Lily came running down from upstairs, crying and shouting, Vincent, save Leo. Please, I beg you to save Leo. She threw herself into Vincent's arms, crying pitifully. I know Iris hates me, but if she has any grievances, she can come at me. Why did she have to hurt Leo? He's just a 7-year-old child. What happened, Lily? Speak slowly. This morning, I got Leo's clothes for him. As soon as he put them on, he had an allergic reaction. His whole body was covered with rashes. The clothes were freshly washed last night, but someone smeared them with seafood juice. The maid said that only Iris went to the laundry room last night. She knows Leo is allergic to seafood. She did the same thing 3 years ago. By the time I went downstairs, Vincent was already livid with anger. Yes, 3 years ago, Leo had an allergic reaction to seafood once and almost suffocated. Of course, I was the culprit. At that time, I refused to admit it and made a big fuss. During the argument, I pushed Lily. She happened to hit the corner of the table and was almost blinded. Vincent was furious and sent me to the countryside himself. 3 years later, Leo had another allergic reaction to seafood. Naturally, I was still the culprit, the repeat offender. But this time, I didn't argue or make a fuss. I just stood there with a smile on my lips, watching Lily put on her act. But Vincent was angered by my attitude. Iris, what do you have to say for yourself? I shook my head. I have nothing to say. Is it because the wedding was postponed that you hold a grudge against Lily and did this? No. Then you're just as stubborn as ever. I smiled. Think whatever you like. Iris, if anything happens to Leo, what will you do? Kill me? Or send me back to that horrible place again? I looked at Vincent with a disheartened look. I deliberately said, anyway, you never believed me. No matter how I explain, you won't listen or believe. Then I have nothing to say. Only this way can I prove my innocence. After saying that, I casually picked up the fruit knife that had been on the coffee table for a long time. Iris, what are you doing? I took one last look at Vincent and smiled sadly. That look didn't need any practice. After spending more than a decade together day and night, like relatives and also like lovers, I had given my sincere love without any pretense. But now, everything had fallen apart and things had changed. It was a result that the young and ignorant me in the past had never thought of. Fortunately, it was all going to end. There was no more attachment or longing in my heart. The system said it would block my pain perception. So the knife almost sank into my heart completely. But I didn't feel any pain at all. My body slumped softly to the ground. The snow-white long dress was stained with bright red blood, like blooming flowers. It must have been shocking and unforgettable, because I heard countless chaotic voices in my ears. Among them, the most devastated and hysterical one was Vincent's. But I closed my eyes, in the pool of blood on the floor. I gently closed my eyes. Iris, Iris. Vincent tried to cover the bleeding wound, but it was in vain. He clearly felt my body slowly getting cold. In the end, my breath was weak and on the verge of stopping. Lily had already been scared silly, standing there dumbfounded with a pale face. The servants were in a chaos. Some were making emergency calls, some were shouting helplessly, some were so scared that they fainted. And there was also one who was so scared that her face went blank and suddenly knelt down on the ground. It was her. She gave me money and told me to do it. She also told me to do it 3 years ago. The maid must have been driven crazy by the sudden turn of events. She was actually pointing at Lily and pouring out everything. Miss Iris was wrongly accused. She has been wrongly accused from the beginning to the end. It's this vicious woman who can even use her own child. Vincent suddenly looked at Lily. But Lily suddenly let out a scream and scrambled up the stairs. Leo was still upstairs. He was indeed allergic to seafood. But taking the medicine in time could relieve the symptoms. It's just that no one expected that I would suddenly do such a thing. It disrupted the rhythm of Lily's act. And now, all of this had nothing to do with me anymore. The evildoer finally had the consequences backfire on her own child. Maybe this was karma. Iris, should we go back now, or should we watch this good show to the end? I smiled and shook my head at the system. Let's go. I want to go home now. I couldn't wait to see my parents who loved me. Also, my fiancé in the original world. The system had told me several times that it had traveled through several worlds. It had never seen a more infatuated fiancé than mine. So, deep in my heart, I had been longing to go back sooner. I didn't have the heart to watch this farce of these unimportant people. Yes, when I had no love or hatred for them anymore, I had no interest at all in whatever was going to happen to them. The next second after saying that, the Iris in this world, in Vincent's arms, bled out the last drop of blood and took her last breath. From now on, everything had nothing to do with me anymore. In the faint light, I saw a slender figure standing by the window. And when I slowly opened my eyes, the instruments beside the bed suddenly started beeping. The figure suddenly turned around. He looked at me, his whole body trembling slightly. I saw surprise, excitement, and the uneasiness of disbelief in his eyes. But beneath those complex emotions, there was also a lingering layer of sadness. At this moment, all the past memories came flooding back. When my memory started to recover, I could finally be sure. I had finally come back. Finally, I was home. Suddenly, my heart ached and tears rolled down my cheeks. Ethan. Meeting again, it felt like a lifetime had passed. But on the patient information board at the head of the bed, my age was 22. In this world, only 2 years had passed. But during the 2 years when I was in a coma in bed, for my relatives and loved ones, it was like an unbearably long torment in hell. Over the years, the system often told me, if it weren't for the deep obsessions of my parents and my fiancé in the original world, I would never have had this chance to come back. Especially my fiancé. He once swore before the gods that he was willing to exchange half of his lifespan for my awakening and a long life of 100 years. But clearly, I had been really mean to him in the past. From the age of 18 when we got engaged until the accident at the age of 21, I almost quarreled with him every day, demanding to break off the engagement. I hated this futile dross. I hated his single-minded, infatuated and even somewhat pathological love. I hated this kind of life where one could see the end at a glance. In the end, all my resentment and dissatisfaction were all dumped on Ethan. I quarreled with him, gave him the cold shoulder, and didn't even give him face in front of many people. I deliberately did things he hated, hoping that he would take the initiative to break off the engagement. After my accident, the doctor once said that I would never wake up again. My parents tried to persuade Ethan several times to cancel the engagement and not to waste his time on me. But he simply wouldn't listen. He took care of me for a full 2 years. He even did a better job than the most professional caregivers. I had been lying in bed for 2 years, always clean, without the slightest unpleasant smell. The system said that everything Ethan had done for me, even they, machines without human emotions, were deeply moved. It urged me that after I recovered, I must be with Ethan properly. After all, it was really possible that he wouldn't live to see his old age. I promised. And I had already secretly made up my mind that I would make up for what I owed Ethan over the years. I would marry him and be his wife, and stay with him for a lifetime. But I never expected that after my body started to recover quickly, Ethan suddenly proposed to break off the engagement to me. During the year you were in a coma, I often regretted it. If I had agreed to break off the engagement with you back then, you wouldn't have quarreled with me. You also wouldn't have run away from home in a fit of pique in the middle of the night, resulting in this car accident. Ethan pushed his glasses up. He looked at me and smiled faintly. Iris. You're still so young. You really shouldn't be tied to a man you don't like for a lifetime. I give up. I'll set you free. He handed me the tokens that our 2 families had exchanged when we got engaged. I saw that his middle finger was empty. The engagement ring that he used to never take off didn't know when it had been taken off. Only a faint mark was left. And my middle finger was also empty. It was only then that I suddenly remembered that after the engagement ceremony, I had taken off the ring and never worn it again. An indescribable sourness gradually filled my chest. My throat seemed to be blocked by something. There were clearly many things I wanted to say. But at this moment, I didn't know where to start. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Ethan didn't stay any longer. I'm leaving. You have a good rest and take good care of your injuries. I may not be able to come and pick you up when you are discharged from the hospital. Iris, take good care of yourself. Ethan slowly stood up. His tall and slender figure was stretched long by the light from the window. But it also looked lonely and desolate. My vision didn't know when it had become blurred, so much so that I couldn't clearly see the emotions in his eyes. I'm leaving. From now on, no one will bother you anymore. He raised his hand, as if he wanted to touch my face for the last time. But he just lifted it and then put it down again. I watched him turn around. At the moment he took a step, I finally reached out and gently held his finger. Ethan, where is your ring? I could feel his slight tremor. And after the tremor, he subconsciously wanted to pull his hand back. But I held it even tighter. Ethan, where is your engagement ring? He turned around, looking down at me, and his Adam's apple bobbed up and down rather violently. When he spoke again, his voice was already slightly hoarse. In the box. Take it out. Iris? Take it out. I don't have the strength in my hands yet. Ethan pursed his lips tightly and gave me a deep look. In the end, he still pulled out his hand, opened the box on the side, took out the ring box, and handed it to me. I took the box, opened it, took out the ring, and then looked up at him. Ethan, give me your hand. But he stood still. His long fingers slowly curled up and clenched. Iris, you don't have to do this. Don't have to do what? Don't have to force yourself just to repay me. Do you think I'm that kind of person? Ethan didn't answer. Only those eyes that used to always be covered with a layer of sadness seemed to have a faint glimmer of light. If you want to repay me, there are many better ways. Do you think I'll sacrifice my whole life just to repay you? Iris, why? I was also asking myself, why? Perhaps it was the experiences in that different world over the years that finally made me understand to cherish the person in front of me. Perhaps it was that the Iris in this world actually had already fallen in love with Ethan deep in her heart. It was just that she was too young and her mind was not yet settled, and she didn't even know her own true feelings. And the current Iris. What she cherished most was a sincere heart. I looked up at him, blinked and smiled. There was no need to tell the person who loved me all the past pains and grievances again. It would only make them sad. Ethan, during these 2 years, I had a really long dream. In the dream, we lived a whole life together and were very happy. I said to myself in the dream that if I could wake up, I would marry you. Of course, if you still want to marry me and be with me. I looked at Ethan seriously, waiting for his answer. But he was silent for a good while before speaking again. Iris, maybe you were in a coma for 2 years and forgot some past things. When you remember what I'm really like, and you're still willing to accept me, then we'll get married. What was the real Ethan like? The system didn't tell me in detail. It only briefly mentioned a few things. Saying that he was a few years older than me and his possessiveness towards me was terrifyingly strong. That's why I, who was still young back then, couldn't help but want to get rid of it. That's why I resisted being with him. But I never expected that. It turned out that he was exactly like the Yandra male lead described in the books. His love for me was not only suffocating. It had even reached a somewhat pathological level. In the Ethan family's mansion, he had a private study. It was filled with photos of me from childhood to adulthood. All the items related to me were treasured. Even the glass marbles I played with when I was a kid and the broken dolls. My 18th birthday photo was made into a huge poster by him and hung on the wall right opposite the door. What was even more outrageous to me was that the love letters I wrote back to other boys in middle school were actually here with him too. Ethan? I looked at him in disbelief. Where did you get all these things from? Aren't you angry? He handed me a cup of warm tea. Don't you think I'm a pervert? And dislike me even more? I thought about it carefully. It seemed that I didn't dislike him, nor did I think he was a pervert. I just felt an indescribable heartache. Because in those past years, I had never given any response to his liking, and this kind of liking of his would have scared the 18-year-old Iris. But it couldn't scare me who had lived 2 lifetimes. Also, I don't want to hide it from you. Since you insisted on breaking off the engagement 3 years ago, I've been seeing a doctor and taking medicine. During the 2 years you were in a coma, my dosage doubled. Ethan's voice was calm, without the slightest ripple. As if he had already made the worst preparations and could accept anything calmly. Iris, you see, my heart is actually very fragile. If you promise to be with me and one day in the future you want to end the relationship with me, maybe I'll completely break down. We'll do something extreme to myself again. You're still young. I don't want to hold you back. If we have a child, I don't want the child to have an unhealthy father like me either. After saying all this, he looked at me quietly, as if waiting for the final verdict. I put down the teacup and gently held his trembling hand. Can it be cured? Ethan seemed to be stunned for a moment. Then he nodded, yes, but. Don't say but. Just tell me how to cure it. His fingers were trembling violently. After a while, he said in a deep voice, stay by my side and never leave me. After saying this sentence, Ethan looked away. He probably didn't dare to look at me. He didn't want to see hesitation or other emotions in my eyes. The light in the study fell on his face. I could clearly see his tightly pursed lips. I could clearly feel his disordered breathing. I didn't say anything. I just slowly let go of his hand. And at the moment when my hand let go, I clearly felt Ethan's breathing hitch. At the instant when his eyes darkened, I suddenly stood on tiptoe and gently kissed him. Ethan, let's go get our marriage license tomorrow. 1 year later, my body had completely recovered. And the wedding with Ethan would also be held as scheduled. On the eve of the wedding, Ethan was downstairs seeing off relatives and friends. When I went back to the room to take a bath and rest first, suddenly, I heard the voice of the system after a long time. Iris, Iris, the Vincent family is in a complete mess now. 3 months ago, Vincent's mother successfully divorced and she got a large sum of property. Now she is traveling around the world with a few close friends. Isn't that great? I was very happy in my heart. I didn't expect to hear news about Vincent's mother again, and to know that she was now so free and living so happily. Yes, it's great for Vincent's mother. But Mr. Vincent was so ashamed of the divorce that he was almost driven crazy. The Vincent family is already in a terrible mess. After you died, Vincent knew the truth about many things before. And during the 3 years you were sent away, actually Vincent had someone send you money every 3 months. But it was all secretly intercepted by Lily. I found it rather funny. It can't all be blamed on Lily. If he had regarded me as even half a sister, he wouldn't have let me be bullied and calculated by others. Yes, we all know that the real culprit is him. However, Vincent hit Lily quite hard. Mr. Vincent couldn't stand it and came out to stop it. But it was exposed. Lily had only been living in the Vincent family for a short time and had an affair with him. It's just that Lily wanted to marry into the Vincent family in a proper way, so she has been keeping it a secret. Vincent was almost furious and told the two of them to pack up and leave. By the way, Lily's son is that Leo. Didn't he have a seafood allergy that day and didn't take medicine in time? As a result, it was delayed. Throat edema led to severe hypoxia and suffocation. He survived narrowly but has been in a coma. The subsequent medical and rehabilitation expenses are ridiculously high, but Vincent won't give her a penny. As for Lily's ex-husband, after knowing that his son had an accident, he cut off all alimony. I heard that he is asking a lawyer to file a lawsuit and demanding the real estate previously divided between them. Lily is quite miserable now. Her reputation is completely ruined. All relatives and friends are avoiding her. The system sighed and was a bit emotional. I thought for a while and still asked, you didn't come to me just to say these things, right? Yes, I came to you still because of Vincent. Iris, after you died, Vincent became a little crazy. Perhaps the way you chose to die had too great an impact on him. He wouldn't let you be buried. He sought help from gods and tried countless absurd methods to revive you. Finally, somehow, he found us. What does he want? He wants to see you. Unnecessary. The system said again, I thought so at the time. However, he is willing to make a deal with us and exchange everything he has as long as he can see you. Iris, I thought of your husband. He is so popular among our systems. My colleagues and I don't want to see him die young, so. My heartstrings twitched. So what? I asked Vincent to exchange half of his lifespan. He agreed. I was a bit surprised when I heard this. But soon I became happy again. So, can Ethan live a long life? Of course. But in the end, it still needs you to make a decision, agree or disagree. I agree. I didn't hesitate at all. Not to mention half of his lifespan. If I could give it all to Ethan, I would be even happier. Great. Then when shall we arrange for him to meet you? I looked at myself in the mirror. My skin is lustrous and my complexion is charming. I am the freshest flower nourished by love. I raised my hand and took off the pearl stud on my ear. Please give him a wedding invitation of ours. Tomorrow is my and Ethan's wedding. Let him attend as a guest. By the way, remember to tell him to bring enough gifts. For tomorrow's wedding, Ethan and I have long agreed. All guests don't need to send any gifts or presents. But after arriving at the scene, there will be a charitable private placement. All the donations will be used to support women and children in poverty-stricken areas. Vincent is no different from a stranger to me. But now that he is still useful, I will naturally squeeze him dry without hesitation. When Mom and Dad led me by the hand and sent me to Ethan's side, they cried like tears, and I was also in tears. When Ethan held my hand, I saw the jade bracelet on his wrist. In that world, Vincent's mother should be traveling among mountains and waters with 3 or 5 friends now. Knowing that she is well, the last bond to that world is slowly fading away. From then on, Iris and Ethan will be together for a lifetime in this world. I know Vincent has been sitting in the guest seats all the time. But which row he is sitting in and where he is, I don't know and don't care at all. This is an extremely important day in my life. I don't want to leave any regrets. After exchanging wedding rings, Ethan and I kissed. There seemed to be a small commotion under the stage. But it soon subsided. From beginning to end, Ethan and I didn't look down at the stage. When Ethan and I were returning to our wedding room by car after the dinner, a black car also quietly followed us. I know it clearly. I know Vincent is in that car. But Ethan knows nothing about it. However, in our relationship, he is extremely sensitive. So after a while, Ethan sensed something was wrong. He held my hand and tightened it little by little. In the end, it was so tight that my finger bones ached faintly. Ethan, what's wrong? He didn't speak but just pulled me into his arms and hugged me tightly. We naturally drank a lot today. He has a strong smell of alcohol on his body, but it still smells good. Iris, I feel like I am in a dream. I didn't say anything. I just hooked his neck and kissed him on the face. During these months of preparing for the wedding, we had many intimate contacts. But Ethan never went to the last step with me. In fact, I know what he is thinking. This person, no matter when, always thinks of me first. He doesn't want me because he still wants to leave a way out for me. Even if I regret breaking off the engagement before marriage, there is still a way out. But how would he know? Now, I have deeply fallen in love with him. Ethan, don't think too much. Tonight is our wedding night. After tonight, it will be impossible for you to separate from me. Because I will pester you for a lifetime. In the flickering light and shadow, Ethan stared at me deeply. I don't know how long it took before he finally smiled. Iris, I am willing. That night, the black car Vincent was sitting in stopped outside our wedding room villa all night. I didn't go to see him. Nor did I let the servants let him in through the gate. The light in the master bedroom of Ethan and my wedding room was still on until 2 in the morning and hadn't been turned off. Everything is self-evident. In front of the floor-to-ceiling window, I lowered my head as if exhausted and wanted to press my face against the glass. But what I touched was Ethan's warm palm. My forehead touched the scar left by the old wound in his palm. And there are also several such wounds on his arm. I didn't ask more. I just kissed it. Ethan hugged me from behind. My back was close to his chest. He kissed behind my ear. Amid the intertwined hot breaths, we fit even closer. Ethan. I called out in a trembling voice. I had never experienced that feeling before and was a little scared. Iris, what should you call me now? After the storm, he slowed down again. That kind of lingering and grinding is even more torturous, making me on tenterhooks and on the verge of crying. Husband, husband, my voice was broken. With the pattering spring rain, my body seemed to have a rain too. Drenching Ethan. Iris. He interlocked his fingers with mine and gently bit on my neck. Iris, do you like me like this? I nodded subconsciously and then shook my head in shyness and panic. But in the end, I still choked with sobs and obediently answered, yes, I like it so much. He gently kissed the tooth mark on my neck and then lowered his head and kissed me affectionately. When we were kissing passionately, I was sent to the clouds by him. Iris. If you like it, stay by my side forever and ever, okay? Okay. Vincent, that thing called the system didn't break its promise. He did see Iris. But only saw her. He sat in the guest seats. The position was very back and very biased. Therefore, he only saw her in a white dress from a distance. She was sent to her husband by her parents. She seemed to be crying all the time, but even when crying, she was amazingly beautiful. Her husband loved her very much. Because from beginning to end, his gaze never left her for a second. During the first half of the entire wedding, he was very calm. But when the groom kissed the bride at the end, the tightly stretched string in his heart suddenly broke. The glass wine cup was crushed by him. The fragments stuck in the soft flesh of his palm, and blood flowed all over his hand. There was a small commotion around him, but it soon subsided. The guests in the front row were also looking back at him. But from beginning to end, she didn't look at him. Later, he drove and followed them all the way back to their wedding room. She still didn't see him. And his time was running out. He stayed outside the gate all night. Looking at the light in their bedroom in the distance, it was almost dawn when it was turned off. But he seemed to be numb and couldn't even feel the pain. He always thought that sooner or later, he would marry her. He also always thought that Iris came to the Vincent family when she was 3 years old. In this lifetime, she would stay in the Vincent family. But he never expected. She, who was completely disappointed in him, would finally choose such a resolute way to leave. Her white dress was soaked with blood. Her body became cold and stiff in his arms. She would never cry to him again, quarrel with him, or tell him her grievances. Nor would she sweetly call his name and cling to him. He seemed to be having a ridiculous dream. He didn't even understand himself. In those last years, why did he treat her like that? Why did he listen to Lily's words and really send her to the mountains? He didn't go to see her for 3 years. In fact, as long as he went once in the middle, it was very likely that he would find out what Lily had done. But he didn't go even once. Vincent despised his own stupidity and ridiculousness. And in this long torture of day and night, he chose to give up on himself. When he came, he donated all the money he could bring. Iris suffered a lot in the mountains in those 3 years. In the most difficult time, she couldn't even buy sanitary napkins. So now she wants to do such a thing. And now the only thing he can do for her is this. It's dawn. He should go back. The car passed through the thick fog and returned to his world. When the fog cleared, suddenly, a car speeding crazily appeared in Vincent's sight. Then, he saw Lily's haggard and crazy face. He subconsciously wanted to turn the steering wheel to avoid it but stopped. At the moment of the collision of the 2 cars, he saw Leo, who was still in a coma, on the passenger seat. When the loud impact sound rang out, the intense pain of broken bones and torn flesh also swept over. Then, everything returned to calm in the fire. Good, he thought. People like them should die so tragically. And Iris will live a long life. In his last consciousness, Vincent felt like he had returned to many years ago. At that time, Iris was only 3 years old. Mom held her hand. She timidly hid behind her mother and obediently called him brother. At that time, he was less than 10 years old. He reached out to her. She hesitated for a moment and then put her chubby little hand in his palm. He held it. He thought, this time, he would never let her go again.